Tonight, some disturbing news for you guys. While I'm talking here, I'm going to try to do two things at once and get my page up so I can see any comments and bring this up. But really, really disturbing news. At least two committees. I don't know yet if it's the entire Tennessee General Assembly, but they pretty much shut me down and won't allow me to testify on bills. And if you've been following my work, you know, I go into the Tennessee General Assembly. I browse through the bills on the General Assembly website, and when I see something that just looks ridiculous, you know, I feel compelled to go in there and just kind of expose how ridiculous some of that legislation is. And so I've been going in there and testifying a lot. And so I first ran into problems testifying with the Tennessee Senate Judiciary Committee, the Senate Judiciary Committee, which Senator Bell is the chairman of. And so I emailed them, and this is the practice. And I encourage anybody out there to pay attention to the statutes that they're proposing and that they're passing through the General Assembly. Go take a look at the bills on the General Assembly website, and when you see something that doesn't look right, you have a right to go talk on it. And I encourage people to start getting into the General Assembly and start voicing their opinion of some of this, I mean, really crap legislation that they're passing. So much of it is solely for the benefit of special interest groups, or very often for corrupt purpose to protect unlawful or unconstitutional state official conduct. And I mean, they're passing, I mean, they propose about 1,500 bills every year, and they pass around 900 of them every year. It is impossible that we need that much legislation every year. It is absolutely impossible. And so that begs the question, what's this legislation about? And it's about special interests, largely so that attorneys make more money, that there's more things to prosecute people over, that there are more things that people have to fight in court to defend themselves. And of course, attorneys like that because then it generates attorney fees for them. So a lot of legislation is geared that way. But anyway, so I've been testifying against some of this legislation, and so they started shutting me down. The Senate Judiciary, the standard process for any citizen that wants to go talk on a bill is you email the chairman of the committee and you say, I want to come talk on, you know, SB 0590 or whatever the bill is. They have different rules in different committees. Some of them will say, I want to see your talking points or whatever. But what they do to me now is they ignore my emails. And so I actually go down there to the Cordell Hull building, to the legislative office building, and say, hey, y'all answer my email. I want to talk on this bill. And so I'm gonna share my screen with you, and I'm gonna show you what happens. But first, I'm gonna run through the Constitution. I want you guys to understand you have a constitutional right to do this, and I wish more citizens would get involved the way that I am. But let me share my screen here, and I'm going to show you a couple of things. But first, I'm going to show you that you have a constitutional right to do that, or to do this. So this is the Tennessee Constitution here. It says citizens have the right in a peaceable manner to assemble together for their common good, to instruct their representatives. So yeah, we have a constitutional right in Tennessee to instruct our representatives and to apply to those invested with the power of government for some grievance. So a grievance is discrimination, or oppression of constitutional rights. So if you have been discriminated against or the government has oppressed constitutional rights, you have a constitutional right to redress of grievance or purpose, and that or other proper purpose absolutely includes going in and talking about proposed legislation. And the method of that is by address or. Now this is, if you've been following my work, this is, they claim it's a typo that happened in 1982, but it's by address or remonstrance. So address is an oral presentation. Remonstrance is a formal written protest against government policy or government officials. But we have a choice. We can choose to address them, or we can do it in a formal written protest. Constitutional right. I'm working really hard to get this corrected because I've looked at the actual and original 1870 and 1834 Tennessee constitutions, and it is absolutely by address or remonstrance. So what they're doing in the Senate Judiciary Committee, I'm going to bring this up real quick. This was a bill that I wanted to testify on, and where they ignored my email saying I want to testify on this bill, and then I just went down there and said I want to talk on this bill. So here's what they did.
From Mr. Gentry, John Gentry, who contacted the committee about speaking. Would anyone like to hear from him?
Oh.
Seeing none, then, without objection, we're now back in session.
Would anybody
Senator
like
Hale?
to hear from Mr. Gentry? No, not today. We don't want to hear from Mr. Gentry today. And I mean, very obviously, the reason is because I make a whole lot of sense. And I say, this is unconstitutional. I am never disrespectful. I am always, or for the most part, I'm on point about these bills that I talk about. So it's ridiculous. They say, I don't want to hear from Mr. Gentry. Well, I have a constitutional right to instruct you. And I also have a constitutional right to address you for proper purpose. And to just say, nah, we don't want to hear you, that is an oppression of my constitutionally protected right. And as citizens, this is dangerous conduct by our government to openly violate constitutional rights. So later on, I wanted to go testify in another committee. And so I emailed Ms. Price. She is the legislative assistant for Representative Mike Carter, who is a chairman of the Civil Justice Subcommittee. He's also a former judge, now a legislator, which seems pretty improper to me to have a former judge working in the General Assembly as a legislator, but he's there. But so this is an email that I sent. I said, Ms. Price, I'm asserting my Article 1, Section 23 right of address to speak on the constitutional amendment, House bill referenced in the subject line. So I clearly said, I am asserting my right to instruct and to address. I clearly state that and what I'm talking about. She emailed me back. It's in a separate email. She emailed me back and said, you've got 4 minutes that you can talk on this bill. There's a lot of people that want to talk on this bill. It's a constitutional amendment. So absolutely, there's a lot of people that are concerned about this. And she said, because there's a lot of people, maybe 3 minutes, but you're set. And she said, ask me to email her back with my talking points. So I sent my talking points. So Representative Carter wrote me back. So you can see here on March 2 at 1:43, Representative Mike Carter wrote, "Dear Mr. Gentry, I discovered a few minutes ago that you have requested to speak before the Civil Justice Subcommittee on March 3rd. I respectfully deny your permission to address the subcommittee for the following two reasons. You're an active candidate having pulled a petition to run against a sitting senator. Our committee does not allow speeches designed to enhance your status relative to a political race." I'm not there to enhance my status. I'm there to evidence that these bills are improper before the body, or that they are proper. Actually, in this one, I was intending to speak in favor of the bills, but I don't do it to enhance my status relative to a political race. I guess they're worried now that I have a chance of getting elected. I actually think I have a great chance of getting elected because the people recognize, that the work I'm doing is necessary, and they need to get me in there to have somebody in office that will actually work to the benefit of the people. But regardless, even if it is, I have a constitutional right. Every citizen has a constitutional right to instruct our representatives and to address them for proper purpose. His second point was, I've been made aware that you've sued the Tennessee House of Representatives. That's actually a mistake. I brought suit against the clerk and the speakers of both houses, not the Tennessee House of Representatives. Since I'm involved in active litigation, it would be inappropriate for you to address the body. Your testimony would allow any committee member to ask you questions about the litigation. We have no interest, nor will we become involved in your litigation, as the separation of powers between the legislative branch and the judicial branch is paramount. Well, gosh, so separation of powers, and he sat on a committee where I testified that the judiciary is absolutely exercising legislative powers. So I guess when it's convenient for Representative Mike Carter, he likes to talk about the separation of powers, but it is absolutely ridiculous to say that because I'm involved in litigation that I cannot assert my constitutional right to instruct them and to address them for proper purpose. And here's a perfect example. This was a testimony that I was giving in the Government Operations Committee recently, and Senator Roberts addressed this matter about the litigation that I'm involved in against the clerks and the speakers of both houses. So here's how a proper senator addressed about not discussing litigation in committee hearings.
Asked to be recognized again because he shared that he had new information. I do need, from a disclosure standpoint, to say that John is in litigation with the state of Tennessee, and so John, is very customary for us. When that's the case, we don't try to get involved in any of the litigation. You're very welcome to speak, and I think you told my assistant that you could probably do it all within 9 minutes, and so you're now recognized. So thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. My name is John Gentry. I trust that
they, Representative Carter, he could have just said, introduced me and said, we're not going to talk about the litigation, but he put it out there that you can't speak because you're involved in litigation. But clearly, they recognize that I'm involved in litigation, and they still allowed me to testify. And here's another one. This is Representative Hardaway, who I was very impressed that he stood up for my right to address them in this testimony. So watch what Representative Hardaway does here.
Seeing Representative Hardaway.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I'm going to vote no.
because I believe that when our citizens show up, they need to be heard. The explanation on why the judge is not here, it really doesn't ring true. And I just don't see inconveniencing the citizen who is here and understood what this hearing was all about, and yet the judge didn't understand. I don't get that. I'm going to give the benefit of the doubt to the citizen and vote no, so the citizen can be heard. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Hardaway.
That we've got a representative saying, yeah, this citizen needs to be heard. He showed up here. He wants to talk on this bill. That's the way. That's what Representative Hardaway said. There is the absolute truth that when a citizen shows up, they need to be heard because we have a constitutional right to instruct and to address for proper purpose. So, these guys just keep stacking the deck against themselves. And I wish they would just stop and start to make things right and restore oversight of the judiciary where it belongs, to adhere to their oaths of office, to uphold the Constitution, and to start protecting the people. It is just ridiculous that we keep playing these stupid games. I'm going to continue to pick apart the legislation. I don't have to sit in front of them. I actually don't go in those committee meetings, because they almost always pass the legislation anyway that I oppose. They just don't care what the citizens think. They don't care that it's unlawful, unconstitutional, that it's for the benefit of special interest and not the people. And they care less about what I say. I go in there to raise awareness for you guys out there so that you can see. And what's happening in Tennessee is happening in every General Assembly across this nation. And you guys out there have to start paying attention to, in our Declaration of Independence, they called it pretended legislation, and it was a grievance. It's a declared act of tyranny that our founders put in the Declaration of Independence, that he gives his assent to pretended legislation. And that's what the founders were talking about, is that pretended legislation. It means that it's enacted not to preserve the peace, safety, and happiness of the people, but to oppress them, or to eat out their substance, and to take our money, take our children, all the awful things that government is now doing through this pretended legislation. It is a grievance in our Declaration of Independence. It is a declared act of tyranny, and it is happening in every General Assembly across this entire nation. And I've just been going in there and exposing it for what it is. I do it in a very respectful manner. But now, at least for two committees, Civil Justice and Senate Judiciary Committee, they've shut me down and they won't allow me, or they say, does anybody want to hear from Mr. Gentry? And then they all say no, or nobody speaks up. This is dangerous. This is dangerous territory when a government behaves like this. So I'll keep fighting. I'll keep pushing these guys. I'm actually, you guys see all the papers on my desk. This is my petition for writ of mandamus to have my remonstrance heard in the General Assembly, and I'm writing an appellate's brief, and so I've got all the motions and orders and everything laid out on my desk. So I'm working on getting that all written up. But thank you guys for all your support out there and paying attention. The only reason that I get so much attention from the General Assembly, and that, I mean, they're listening to me, they hear me, and they don't say, yeah, Mr. Gentry's right, but they go back and they're like, Gentry's got a point. Yeah, we need to fix this. And the only reason that they do that is because I have so much support from the people standing behind me. And so it is you guys out there that amplify my voice. So, please keep sharing the work that I'm doing. Keep talking to friends and neighbors about the work that I'm doing. And as more and more people become aware, they will become outraged. And because, I mean, who wouldn't be outraged that they're openly violating constitutional rights, and that they are acting outside the provisions of the Constitution. And once more people become aware of this, they're going to have to change. And they're already changing right now, little by little. But it's you people out there. God bless every one of you that has been supportive of the work that I'm doing, and that is sharing and talking to your friends and neighbors about the work that I'm doing out there. I could not do this if it weren't for all of you out there. So y'all have a great rest of the evening tonight. Thank you so much for stopping in. And I'm going to keep fighting for you guys. We have to, we can't just sit down and roll over and let them keep enacting this legislation and keep oppressing our rights and refusing to provide any oversight of the judiciary, and absolutely ignoring and in ignoring, aiding and abetting criminal conduct by judges. So thank you all. I'm going to jump off now. God bless all of you, and don't give up, man. We're gonna fix this. So you have a great rest of the Sunday evening. Y'all have a good night. Bye.